This is Access 2016, Module 1, Part 6. In this segment, we're going to be looking at a few of the miscellaneous tools that are discussed at the end of this module. Two of the key ones are the compact and repair, as well as the backup of the database. So let's get started. At this point, you should have created a Riverview database. In the first segment of our module, we created the visit table. We defined our fields and added a few records, and then in the second segment, we used the copy and paste option to bring additional records in from another database. After that, we created a query. This shows us a list of several of the fields, but not all of them. Later on, we will learn how to do queries that will redefine the number of records that we see, not just the fields. So maybe I'll only see those visits in the month of December. The next thing we did was a simple form. This allows us to view each record individually. We can also edit, delete, and add new records on these forms. And finally, we created a simple report that is designed to print more efficiently the information in our table. So I'm going to go ahead and close all those objects. This segment, we're going to look at, first of all, our navigation pane. So the navigation pane is this area over here that lists all of our objects. So let's look at some of the information we have available. So if I hit the double arrow back, it will remove the navigation pane, kind of close it. That allows me to have additional space if maybe all of the information is not fitting on the screen. And then when I'm ready to see my objects again, I simply click the double arrows to the right and they will open back up. The other thing that I can do is I can look at what information I want to see and how they're going to be sorted. So I could sort that way. It lists the table and all of those objects that are using the table. The object type is the default way. I can also use these arrows to close the list. So if I didn't want to be able to see the tables that were available, I only wanted to see queries, forms, and reports, I could simply close that one. And then you click that button again to reopen it. The next thing we want to look at is where you can access the help information. So if you come up here to the question mark, you'll notice it says Access Help. And when you click on that button, it will open up. It's connecting to the internet, and it's connecting to Microsoft's Access Help information. So we can search for information this way. So if I were to type in the search box, navigation pane, and click search, it would then bring up some options that pertain to that topic. When you're done using the help, you simply would click the X. Now these next two things are important things for you to be able to do. The first one is called compacting and repair. So what happens with Access is as I add additional objects, when it creates them and runs them, it pulls all the data into that object. And so it's storing it with the object. Also, when I delete information, it leaves blank spaces in the middle of the database where it's being stored, where it used to be stored. So there's a lot of wasted space, because if you look right now, I open up my table and I have 75 records. When I open up my list, I have the same 75 records stored with my list, but I have only 3 of the fields. Then when I open up my form, those records are stored with the form as well as with the report. So pretty much you have the data stored 4 times. I really only need the data stored with the table, and the other objects only need the structure. The other thing is that when I delete records or delete objects, it leaves blank spaces in the middle of the database where it used to be. So I want to get rid of all that stuff. I want to shrink it down as much as possible. And then I also want to do any repairs that it needs to make, that it finds, if it finds problems. That's called compacting and repairing. And you should do this prior to submitting each one of your SAM projects. If you get an error message that says your file is too large, that typically means you did not compact and repair. So you need to open your database back up, compact and repair, and then try to submit again. So we're going to go to compact and repair. These options are on our backstage view. So you're going to choose File, and you'll see Compact and Repair. Once that's done, simply click Enable Content, and it has compacted and repaired. As you can see, very simple process. You just need to remember where it's located. Now, another technique you might want to know how to do is to do a backup of your database. When you get to some of the more complex SAM projects, you may want to try to do backups periodically throughout the process of completing the assignment, so that if you discovered everything after part 3 was wrong, you had a bunch of the queries wrong back there, you would have a backup that you could start with after you had finished that point. So let's take a look at how to back up our database. So we are going to choose File, Save As. And you'll notice down here it says Backup Database. So I'm going to click on that and choose Save As. You'll notice what it does is it adds a date. Now you can change this name. I would probably leave the date in there. But if I was, for example, trying to keep that I had finished this after part 6 of our video series, I might say part 6 as part of my name. So it still maintains the date, so I know when I did it, but it allows me to add more after that. And then I'm going to click Save. And now I have a backup of my database. So that concludes Module 1. You can close your Riverview database, and you'll notice that it doesn't ask you to save anything because all of the objects were previously saved.